So, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. So here we go. We're starting Parshat Shilach, and here we have Klal Yisrael came to Moshe Rabbeinu, and they said, "We want people to check out the land before we go." So Rashi brings something interesting, and we learn a big misas. Rashi says first the young people came, and then the old people. Meaning, the young people were faster, so they ran in front of the older people, and they came and they told Moshe Rabbeinu that we want you to send out a party to scour out the land and to see if it's, where to attack, how to conquer it, are the people there strong, all these different things. So, and we know, right, the big failure that came from this, but one of the tzaddikim says, where do we see, how do you see that this was the atzas hayetzer, the advice of the Yetzer Hara? Where do you see that? So he says you see it because instead of the young people following the older people, they ran in front of them. And therefore he says that's how you saw that it was the Atzas Yetzer. If it was something from the Yetzer Tov, then they would have followed the older people as opposed to running in front of them. Something very interesting. So here they go. And Moshe Rabbeinu asks Hashem. He asks Hashem, what should he do? And Hashem really, he didn't, where's the pas? Let's see. Shlach lecha anashim. Send for yourself, man. Meaning, I don't think this is a good idea. But if you want to send people, right. So he says, send for yourself. And he was sort of hinting that don't do it. But, right, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a very big klal. One of the huge klalim is that Hashem gave us bechira, free will. And he tries all the time not to interfere with that. There are some times that Hashem will take away, will take control, but usually not. So, therefore Hashem is saying, if this is what they want, then send for yourself. But for me, it's not. I don't think this is a good idea. And that people were very insistent, and everybody came. It was a bit. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know exactly what to do, and he went along with it. As long as Hashem didn't say he can't do it, he went along with it. And Moshe Rabbeinu sent them from the desert of Paran, that side of the desert, by the word of Hashem. It's one of the entrances into the it's the desert that's called Paran, and that's an entry, one of the entry parts to Eretz Yisrael. If you get like an old map of, they sometimes have it in the back of the Chumash, and you could see it'll say Paran, and you'll see where they came in. Found it? It could, because some of those maps, they only have the map of Eretz Yisrael itself, and here we're looking for the desert. Not at all. Maybe what's his name? Either the Rav, or the, or your, or either one of your cousins. One's the Rav now, and one's or either one of them could help you out. Oh, that's Yadichap. He's your brother. Ah, okay. Oh, yes. Now I chap. Yeah. I knew that. I just forgot. Okay. So now these are the names of the Meraglim, the people that went in to the search out to make a search in Eretz Yisrael. It was for Shevet Ruvain, it was Shamua. His name was Shamua. For the Shevet of Shimon, his name was Shaphat. For the Shevet of Yehuda, his name was Kalev ben Yefuna, right? The famous Kalev ben Yefuna. And he did not sin in the sin of the Meraglim. And for the Shevet of Yisachar, it was Yigo. And for the Shevet of Ephraim, it was Yeshua ben Nun, which now he was called Hoshea ben Nun. And Moshe Rabbeinu added to his name and called him Yehoshua, added a Yud, Yehoshua. And where? No, not at all. Go ahead. It's probably what you were going to say, that Moshe Rabbeinu, he got the hint from Hashem, but at the same time, he didn't know how to get out of it. And therefore, he added a Yud to Yeshua's name from Hoshea to a Yud. Then it comes Yehoshua. And it's one of the oisios of Hashem's name, and this should protect him. And where did he get the Yud from? He got it from Sarah, because Sarah used to be called Sarai, and Hashem changed her name to Sarah, just like Avram was called Avram, and then Hashem changed it to Avraham with a hey. So Moshe Rabbeinu took the Yud from Sarai, which was changed to Sarah, and gave it to Yehoshua. Right, and these two, Kalev ben Yefuna and Yeshua, they were the two, right? So Yeshua ben Nun was from Shevet Ephraim. So Shevet Ephraim and Shevet Yehuda, these were the two Shvatim that their leaders did not sin in the chet of the Meraglim. And now we have Shevet Binyamin. His name is Palti. And for the Shevet of Zevulun, his name is Gadiel. And for the Shevet of Yosef, his name is Menashe. For the Shevet Menashe, his name is Gadi. And for the Shevet of Dan, his name is Amiel. And for the Shevet of Asher, his name is Sisor. And for the Shevet Naphtali, his name is Nachbi. And for the Shevet of Gad, his name is Geuel. And for the Shevet, and these are the names that of the people of each of these Shvatim that Moshe Rabbeinu, he sent to go check out the land. Yeshua ben Nun. Yeah. Kalev had right. Kalev, he had the schus avos, and his family were big tzaddikim, and he had schus avos. However, Hoshea at the time, he did not have these big schus avos, and therefore Moshe, and this was the Talmud of Moshe Rabbeinu, and now we're going to read the pasuk. The pasuk says, "V'yikra Moshe leYeshua ben Nun Yehoshua," and Moshe Rabbeinu called Hoshea ben Nun Yehoshua. He made a Shino Shem. He changed his name. And here we see the importance of being close to tzaddik and being close to Erlich Yidden from Yidden, as they could literally be life-saving. And I'm going to tell you something that just happened to me, and it's just we could Mamish brings out this. There was a person that like 2 months ago, he wanted some help from me in starting off his business. So I gave him $2,000. You keep getting smarter, as you go along. But I gave him 2,000, and I was thinking about it, but I didn't want to check him to make sure he knows what he's doing. And what happened was he lost. Everything went sour. So, but I didn't know it went sour because I called him and he was saying, yeah, how can we get back the money? This, that. But really, it was all a front. He really lost the money. So there was other people that were, they were giving him really, really hard time. Where's the money? This, that. And I just didn't feel that was the right thing. And just yesterday night, a Rav from Canada calls me, and I found out that he told me he went to Israel, and really he's in Canada. This Rav told me that he had a nervous breakdown. He's physically healthy, but he had a nervous breakdown. And it could be that these people that were making him, being very tough with him, they could be, it caused him to have a nervous breakdown. So at the same time, they're thinking, well, he owes me money, so we have a right to get him to give it to us. But at the same time, what does Hashem want, So you might not be wrong, but it's still might not be what Hashem wants. And the Rav calls me up, and he says, you are from the last 4 people. He had a whole list of everybody that he owes money to. And this Rav in Canada says, we told him we're going to take upon ourselves to pay back all the money that he owes. He had a nervous breakdown. They're taking care of him. And that's what the Rav calls me. So just imagine, for someone that did give him a hard time and now they're actually getting back the money, could be, limafir retroactively, it was a sin. Why? Because they're actually getting back the money. It's just that the Rav didn't yet call them. There was a whole bunch of people. So we see how a person has to be so careful how he treats other people. And, especially when your gut is telling you to do something good, especially then you should listen to it. And we also see the amazing right here what it's talking about, that the importance of being close to that tzaddik. If he wasn't close to this tzaddik, then he wouldn't have someone to help him in this situation. Who knows what would have happened to him? He could have gone, completely crazy. So just amazing. Mama's just happened last night. I got the phone call. Now, now Moshe Rabbeinu's, yeah, absolutely. And so Moshe Rabbeinu now is sending them out to check out Eretz Canaan. At that time, it wasn't yet called. It wasn't called Eretz Yisrael. It was still called Canaan. That is an excellent question. There probably is a way to figure it out. I just don't have Rav Chaim Kanievsky's mind to figure that all out. But you probably can figure out how, around what age they were. My guess is all ages. That's my guess. But, I'm sure there was some really older people. It's hard to know. Yeah, it's hard to know because Moshe Rabbeinu was the one that picked out who should go. So it wasn't them. So because these were people that were, as the pasuk says, they were like the heads of their tribes, very important people in each of the shvatim, and that's why he picked them. what you're saying is something that even though you just can't send simple people for such a job. No one's gonna listen. You need something that the shvatim, they're willing to listen to them. If you send someone simple, they're not gonna listen to them. You needed to send someone important, but this I hear. I hear you. You hit upon an important side that one of the Mafarsha brings out. He says, from the people that we see, from the few chatam, the few sins that we find that Klal Yisrael did in the Midbar, the simple people did not sin. It was the people that were smart, and they were the ones that with their smartness, they confused themselves. So now let's see what happened over here. Right, Moshe Rabbeinu sent him to go now. Now he got the gang together, and now he said he's sending them off. And he says, Aluza Banegev should go up in the south, Valisa Mesar, and climb the mountain. And you should go and see the land and the nation that sits in it. Are they strong or are they weak? Are they little or are they many? And what is the quality of the land? Is it good or is it bad? And the mountains and the cities, are the cities that they're sitting in, are they open cities or are they fortified? And is the land, lustrous? Is it raza? Is it like skinny? Meaning, is it like like when plants and things are grown they're not like bulky and geschmack. Is there an eitz? And what does that mean? Is there a tree? Hayesh ba eitz. Is there the tree? Who is that? Says the Gemara, that's Eev. Is Eev still alive? Because Moshe Rabbeinu says if Eev is still alive, he could be a schus for them. Eev was so righteous, right? Even one of the 24 Sfarim is called Eev, right? It's a non-Jew, but he reached the level of prophecy, and he reached a huge level, and he made it into the Tanakh. And Moshe Rabbeinu says if he's still alive, he could be for all the Risham that are living there, he could prevent it. His schus. So he said, is the Eitz still there? The tree, right? The Eitz Achaim, right? Torah is referred to like the Eitz Achaim, the tree of life. The Eitz refers to something that could be a schus that could overshadow all the bad. And we're going to find out later that Eov actually that day was nifter. And he says, Moshe Rabbeinu says, go take from the fruit of the land. And it was actually the times when people gather in the grapes. And that's what they did. They went in by the Negev, by the south of Eretz Yisrael, and they came until Hebron. And over there they saw Achimai, these giants, Achimai. Well, Hebron is where Avram Avinu lived. Yeah, and that's where we have the Kivrei Avos is in Hebron. Also in Hebron. Yeah. Yeah. Shechem was that was a story that they kidnapped Dinah. Yeah, near Shechem. Yeah. Yeah. So now, not at all. So now we're coming in, and this is amazing. They come in the south. They come to Hebron, and who lives in Hebron? These giants, Achiman, Sheshai, Visalmai. These three huge giants that they were so tall that they reached the clouds, the Ananim. Yelidei Hanak, the leader, the children of Anak, which was a different giant. That was their father. V'chevrain Sheva Shanim Nivnes Alifnei Tzayin Mitzrayim. V'yad Nachal Eshkol Yichusim Misham Zmara V'Eshkol Anavim Echad V'Yisou B'Moit B'Shnayim Min Arimonu Min HaTe'enim. So the Medrash brings an interesting story, and just to understand that this was very frightening for them. That the Meraglim, they went into a cave for the night, and then when they woke up, there was a giant. They realized that this was the peel of an orange, and they became terrified. So you have to understand, they first come in, they see these giants. It wasn't an easy test. They were horrified by what they saw. Like when a person is scared down to his guts, that's what happened to them. Only Yeshua ben Nun and Kalev ben Yefuna passed the test, but the rest of them were scared out of their minds. They almost died from being scared. What they experienced over there. And they went and they cut zamora and they cut some grapes, and from the pomegranates they cut down to bring back to show them how big the fruit are. And this place where they cut down these fruits is called Nachal Eshkol. Now they're coming back to Moshe Rabbeinu with these fruits and what they saw over there. And they started to speak to Klal Yisrael. This land that Moshe Rabbeinu sent us to go check out. And behold, yes, it's Zavas Chalav Udvash, flowing with milk and honey. And it's interesting because what does it mean, flowing with milk? How could a land be flowing with milk? Like all the cows' udders are just flowing with milk? It doesn't mean that, right? It doesn't show wealth, that shows that the cow's sick. What it means is, if in Eretz Yisrael you have a lot of plants, that when you cut the plant, a substance looking like milk comes out, meaning the plants there are very lust and just very full of life. I actually saw some of these plants, when you cut them, a milk liquid comes out of them, and that's what it means. That you could just see on the trees that when a tree is very very is very very healthy, you could sometimes see the sap is coming out, or this milky substance is coming out of it. That's what it's talking about. Now it says Ephes ki az, however, but when you're in business, right? Once the guy says but, the business deal's going down, right? However, like, oh no, what's happening now, right? Ki az ha'am, the nation is very strong, and the cities have huge fortifications. And who else did we see? The giants, the famous three giants that the whole world talks about. It's on the news every day on the CNN. They live over there. That's what we're up against. And not only that, Amalek Yoshe Beretz HaNegev. In the south where we went up, guess who lives there? Amalek, the sworn enemy of Klal Yisrael. V'achiti v'ayvusi v'amori Yoshev Bahar. The Chit and the Yevusi and the Amor, they're up in the mountains. They could attack from the mountains. And the Canaani, the nation of Canaan, they live on the ocean. If you try to come from the ocean, they live on the ocean. And also by the edge of the Yarden. This is where the Canaan lives. Vayahas kolev es ha'am. Now you could just imagine what's going on over here, right? When you want to trick someone, first you start with the good and then you hit them with the bad. This is what they did, the famous psychological, attack. And you could have just imagined the people are mortified. Giants are there. The whole Eretz Yisrael, from the mountains to the seas, are fortified with strong armies. The sworn enemy Amalek lives there. They're besides themselves. And Kalev B'siyata Shmai comes up with an idea to try to prevent the tragedy that is about to happen. Vayahas Kalev es ha'am, and Kalev Yahas quiets the nation. And he says, Ole Nala, we will raise up, V'yarashno, we will conquer it. Kiyachal nuchala, because for sure we can. And right? This is literally, literally you have the guy that does this psychological trick on people, the good and the bad, and then you have that one guy that stands up. We can, right? And then what happens? All the other 10 Meraglim go. All these other 10 Meraglim say, no, we can't. Why? Yeah, sure. Not at all. So, and they say you cannot conquer them. They're too strong. And they spoke bad about Eretz Yisrael. Speaking bad about Eretz Yisrael is a terrible, terrible chet. They continued and they said the land that we're going. Well, there's two ways. Yeah, but they missed out. Even in the beginning, they should have said that even though we saw all this, but just like Hashem took us out of Egypt, which was a place of kishuf, wasn't just people were strong. There was a place of magic. A person tried to leave, he died. It was a very scary place, And yeah. And they continued and they said, yeah. And it says, Eretz Oichlei Yeshveh. They continue to say it's the land that eats the people that live there. And why did they say that? Because And then, so Rashi tells us, why do they say that? It's oichles yishva. But komakom shavanu matzonu koiver mason. They said wherever we went, we saw people that the farm of dead people. Meaning Hashem made a magefa, a plague. When they came to the land, Hashem made a plague, and people were dying. Eve died, and people were dying all over the place. And instead of realizing Hashem did this in order to protect us, to keep the people busy, they shouldn't realize that we came in. Instead, they said, no, the land kills people. It's a place of plagues. And there it says, and there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, the Nephilim, people that fell down from heaven. And he says, we'll speak about what does that mean, they fell down from heaven. And he says, Vanihi ve'einenu kachagavim, and we were in their eyes like grasshoppers. That's how tall they were. They reached the clouds. V'chein hayinu be'eineihem, and so were we in our eyes, meaning they also felt like it. And here there's a lot of, when it comes to like Musar, when they talk about ethics, they say that was the problem, that their emunah should have prevented, just because they said because they thought that they were grasshoppers in these giants' eyes, that's why the giants looked at them as grasshoppers. They should have had emunah in Hashem, that who created all these giants, everything Hashem created. Why are you getting so nervous? And where did these giants come? What happened was, there was prosecutors, malchich, chavala, malachim that do damage and evil things, and they were telling Hashem to destroy the world. Look at all the sinners, look at all the terrible people. And finally Hashem had enough and says, let's see how you're going to do. And Hashem threw them into the world, and throwing an angel into the world, he doesn't come out the same size as a person, even though they turned into people, but they were giants, very, very tall, reaching the clouds. And these angels at the beginning did not sin, but when they saw the daughters of Cain, that they would go around undressed, that's when they fell to sin. And then they turned into these big, evil, people. They turned the whole world against Hashem. Very terrible things they did. And these are the Nephilim. And Vatisa ha'eda vayitnu el koila v'yivku am balaylahu. And the whole Eda, they raised their like they all got up or raised their heads in crying. And the entire nation cried that night, and this was Tisha B'Av. And from this came, Hashem says, because they cried now, it's going to become a night that's going to be cried throughout all the generations. The two Beis Hamikdashes were destroyed in that day. Terrible things happened on this day, because they cried a crying for nothing. There was nothing to cry about. In 2 seconds, right? Moshe Rabbeinu and exactly. They cried from fear of what would happen to them if they went in and tried to conquer. And instead of having emunah, they already saw Moshe Rabbeinu. We had Goliath, right? Moshe Rabbeinu jumped up, broke his heel. Hashem made the mountain fall on him. 2 seconds, he was gone. Don't be so impressed. He's a big giant. It's nothing to Hashem. You were afraid for no reason. Now we're going to give you a reason to be afraid of. And Vailenu al Moshe al Aaron kol b'nei Yisrael v'emar lehem kol ha'eda lo masnu be'eretz Mitzrayim oy b'midbar zeh lo masnu. Now we have a terrible gzera. Now they started to say, Wouldn't it be better that we lived that we stayed in Mitzrayim? At least we would be alive. Here, we're going to all die. Gruesome deaths. And people got up and said, we're going to go back to Mitzrayim. Run away from here. We're going to leave this crazy crusade, It wasn't a crusade, because, it was a peaceful, conquest. The Crusades, they would just come and kill people and rape and do all these things. This was peaceful. It was really wrong word to use. It's really conquest, a peaceful conquest. Hashem wanted them to take the land, so that's what they were doing. And they sent messengers to each of the nations and said, we don't want to attack, but Hashem wants us to conquer. You could either leave peacefully, or we're going to have to do it the other way. So it was a peaceful conquer. And Moshe and Aaron fell on their faces before Klal Yisrael, and Yeshua, Ben Nun, and Kalev were from, like as we read before, they were from the people, from the Meraglim that went up, and they said to the Klal Yisrael, they said, the land is very, very good. Don't listen to these people. But you can imagine after what the other Temeraglim said, it was too late. And they said, this is nonsense. Im chafetz banu Hashem vehevi asan el haaretz hazayis. He says, if Hashem wants to bring us here, He can bring us here. Why are you so afraid? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us this land that's flowing with milk and honey. They said, just but. Here we have a but in the positive. But Hashem al timroidu. Don't rebel against Hashem. He says all the people of the land, they're like bread. They're all going to be conquered. He says, Haim sart silam alim, their cloud has gone up, meaning Eov has died. They have no protection. Vashem itanu, and Hashem is with us. Al tiram, don't be afraid. And the people, these other Temeraglim, did a very good job. And the whole congregation says, let's go stone, color them with stones. This is getting very, very serious. Who do they want to stone? Yeshua and Kalev. Rashi points out, not Moshe and Aaron, just Yeshua and Kalev. And then it finally came to a point that Hashem had to intervene, else they would kill Yeshua and Kalev. Uchvayid Hashem nira ba'oihel moed el kol bnei Yisrael, and behold, the honor of Hashem, the special cloud that Hashem would appear to Moshe, that they would see when Hashem was talking to Moshe. It came into appearance, and the whole congregation, all the Klal Yisrael, they saw Hashem is there, Big Pop just came in, everybody put down their weapons, put down the stones, Until when? Until when is this nation gonna fight against me, not believe in me? One, they're not gonna believe. I did so many nisim, so many miracles. They saw that I could do anything. They didn't figure that out just with their minds. They saw I could do anything. And they still don't believe in me. Akenu v'dever, he says, Hashem says, I will hit them with a dever, a plague. And Hashem says, and I will give you to inherit the land. And I will make you into a great nation. Meaning, Hashem says, I will make you rapidly, you and your descendants rapidly have children. And you will be the ones to conquer the land, and all of the other people, they will just be destroyed and forgotten. Just imagine, okay, it's a bit of a, okay, we'll say, because it's important, like, you have, a Rebbe was Nifter, and he has two sons, and one of them, each of them are, trying to get the to be the Rebbe. And then you have one guy that says, all of a sudden Hashem comes to one of them and says, don't worry, I'll take care of your brother for you. Everybody would jump on it, right? Right? That's not what Moshe Rabbeinu did. He was a real tzaddik. What did he do? V'yomer Moshe al ha'am. V'yomer Moshe al Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu said to Hashem, V'shamu Mitzrayim ki halisa b'karkacha asa'am hazeh b'kirbay. He's coming to defend Klal Yisrael, to save them. He says Mitzrayim is going to hear about this. You came to Mitzrayim. You took out Yidden with great strength, and then you killed them all. Right? Well, how is this going to look? How is this going to look? Again, I'm just didn't exactly get what you were saying. Yeah. Yeah. This we see. We see this that when a person, that's why we say al tiftach pel satan. Don't open up your mouth to the satan, meaning don't say something bad, right? Don't say, oh well, I might lose the deal. Don't talk like that. It's called al tiftach peh. You said something and now it might happen, because now you just opened up that possibility. So by Klal Yisrael saying that he brought us to die here, they sort of opened up now. They're deserving to die, kill them. How was the Satan able to say that? Because they said that we're all going to die in the Midbar. That's called tiftach peh. Just be careful. You say it in the opposite way. Don't let you like if you wanted to say if you're afraid that someone was going to become blind. How do you say it? Don't make him someone that sees. What is that? You would say, oh, we're afraid that he's going to become someone that sees. But you really mean we're afraid he's going to become blind. But you don't say, you say the opposite. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to put a curse upon the other nations, but he's really referring to Klal Yisrael if they do such and such. So this is called, you don't say something bad about yourself for other people, another Yid. You try to always say the opposite. It's a different way of saying it. So, and what are the Mitzrayim going to say? They're going to say, El Haaretz. It's, why Hashem killed him? Because he wasn't able to bring them into the land. That he swore to them. Who is that? The Avos. And he slaughtered them in the Midbar. This is what they're going to say. And this is what Moshe Rabbeinu's tainus to Hashem. You have to forgive them. Now should become strong. Your name, Hashem, like you spoke. The Hashem of Hashem Erech HaPayim, the Hashem of He's slow to anger. V'rav Chesed, He is bountiful in kindness. Noisi Avain, He removes the sin. The Avain and the Vafesha, the sin and the negligent sin. V'nakir lo yinakir. Poiked Avain Avos Albanim Ashleish V'Albeim. And basically, Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, right, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when it comes to punishing, He only does it al banim al shaleshim. It only goes until the third generation, and v'al rebeim on the fourth generation, but not further. However, when it comes to good, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does it la'elef dar, for many generations. Salachna l'avayna hamazek yigad chazdecha. Please forgive this nation. because your kindness is bountiful. And you, just like you, and behold, you're the one that you took Klal Yisrael out of Mitzrayim and brought them to this point. You protected them all this way. Hashem says, right? You can hard to imagine, but what does Hashem say? I forgive you like your word. Just like you said. I'm going to forgive them. Vulam chayini, however, I swear by my name, meaning that now there's no way to get rid of this. Hashem swore by his name. V'yimalech v'ed Hashem es kol haaretz. The Hashem's glory that fills the entire world. All the people that saw my honor and my miracles that I did in Mitzrayim, and in the Midbar, and they tested me. That's the problem. Klal Yisrael only did 10 times sinned against Hashem in the Midbar. They did not listen to my voice. If they will see land, meaning that they will not see the land that I swore to their forefathers, and all the people that challenged me will not see it. The Avdi Kalev, and my servant Kalev, says Hashem, he had a different spirit. He was 100% emuna. Right? A person says, well, I'm good. I have 70% emuna. But you have 30 that's not. Kalev was 100% emuna. Ruach Acheres, he had a different spirit. He looked at things differently. He will come into the land and be alive, and he will get a Yerusha in the land. And we also know that Yeshua ben Nun also was saved because he also did not sin in the Chet. So, well, they saw the cloud, but they did not hear or experience more than that. They just know that, except for Har Sinai, by the first two Dibras, the first two of the Sarasah Dibras, only that the whole nation heard. But besides that, unless you were a Navi, which we did have other Nevi'im besides Moshe Rabbeinu, right? We have Eldad and Medad, right? We have different Nevi'im. But no one was able to speak to Hashem the way Moshe Rabbeinu was. He was like speaking to your friend. Panim el panim, no one had that. People always had something in between. A cloud or something, or an angel, something like that. Now, and the pasuk continues. Vaydaber Hashem Moshe vel Aaron Lemar. So first, right, we just read, this is huge. Now we have that Klal Yisrael, all the people that saw what I did in Mitzrayim, and even though they saw everything, they did not have emunah in me and all the miracles. They're not going to go into Eretz Yisrael. But all the people that did not, they will, because you don't have the time of the argument on them that they saw my abilities and they still went against me because the new generation did not. And since they don't have that chet, they will be able to go in. Except for Kalev ben Yefune Yeshua ben Nun, that they did not sin. Those two went in. Ad Masa le'eda hara hazais. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaks to Moshe and to Aaron. Now he's speaking to both of them. Until when are we going to have this evil congregation, that they are complainers against me? As Tlunas b'nei Yisrael shehem malinim alai shamati. Amar aleim chayni num Hashem imloi kasher dibarti ba'aznai kein esa lachem. He says, Hashem is basically doubling his swear, his shvua, that what I said, so shall be. Bamidbar hazeh yiplu pigreichem, in this desert will fall all the corpses. And what does that mean? Yiplu figreichem. It should say yiplu, you can't say a dead person should fall dead. He's already dead. It should say the person should fall dead, right? The answer is that their sin was so great that Hashem was so disgusted with them that he looked at them that that he looked at them as already dead people, and he just said these dead people should fall dead. All the people from 20 and above that complained against me, they're all going to die. Because there's a big din. You hear me? You hear me? Oh, okay. There's a big din. There's a big din in the way Hashem does mishpat, that a person that's younger than 20, the Bezdin Shemala, the heavenly court, does not judge him. The earthly court judges a person from 13, a boy from 13, and a girl from 12. But the heavenly court waits until they're 20. And therefore, this whole Gezerah was only to the people that at that time were 20 years old and above. The only people that are going to come in, says the Pasuk Beferish, is Kalev ben Yefuna and Yeshua ben Nun. And all those children that you said it's going to be, it was for naught that we gave birth to them, they're all going to die. They're the ones that are going to go in, but not you. Why? Because you were disgusted by the land. You looked at Eretz Yisrael, that it was a plague, it was a terrible place to be. You're not going to go in now. And some is like, Hashem is, usually the Torah is careful not to say things a few times unless that's the way it happened. And here we see Hashem is like repeating himself. And all you dead corpses, you're all going to die in the Midbar. Uvinechem you roim bamidbar arbam shana v'nasu es zinuseihem ad time pigrechem bamidbar. And your children will be wandering the desert for 40 years until all of you die, and then and then you're going to go into the land. And where does the 40 days come from? Why 40 years? The answer is that the Miragelim, for when they started and came back, it was 40 days. And for each of those days, you're going to have to be in the Midbar for a year. And Hashem is like, Hashem is really going at it. Hashem is very upset about how they acted. And these people that Moshe Rabbeinu sent to go skewer out the land, except for Yeshua ben Nun, Caleb ben Yefuna, as we said before in the pasuk, they should die. Why? Because they spoke bad. They're going to die with a terrible type of plague. And Yeshua ben Nun, Caleb ben Yefuna, Chayu min hanashim. They're the only ones that live from these people. And now Moshe Rabbeinu, right? This whole thing that we just heard is all Hashem speaking to Moshe and Aaron, and now Moshe goes to tell to the nation what Hashem said, and immediately Klal Yisrael realized their sin. Vayisablu ha'am ma'ayid, and the entire nation started to mourn and cry and put on sackcloth and ashes about this terrible thing that they heard now, that they're not going to go into the land, and how Hashem is so disgusted by them. And now we had a few zealotins. They came up, Vayashkimu b'bayker v'yalu el rosh ha'ar la'emar hinenu v'alisu el ha'makom ha'shamar Hashem kichatanu. They said, behold, we have sinned before Hashem. Now we're going to go and conquer the land. So you have this, they were so sad about the sin that they did, the chet that they did. Now they're going to say, we're going to jump, we're going to go in right now and fight. Moshe Rabbeinu says, why are you going against the word of Hashem? You're not going to be successful. Don't go up, because Hashem is not with you. And don't go up because you're going to be hit by your enemies. Because they were now by the Negev, the south. That's where Amalek was. And who's going to get you? The Amaleki and the Kanani. And you're all going to die by the sword. Who knows how they're going to torture you to death? Right? People, Hashem's not with you. Don't go. And they all went up to and they didn't listen, and they went to go conquer the land. And the Aaron of the Aaron and Moshe, they did not leave the camp, and they were just and these people went up all by themselves, and the Amaleki and the Kanani that were living in the mountains over there, they came and hit them and destroyed them and they were chasing them until the place of Charma and killed them all. Now Kadosh Baruch Hu comes to Moshe Rabbeinu saying, speak to the Klal Yisrael and say to them, when you're going to come to the land of Eretz Yisrael, and meaning now Hashem is sort of comforting the nation. He's starting to tell them what's going to be when they come to Eretz Yisrael, and you're going to bring sacrifices to Hashem. And now that if you swore to bring a carbon, so you're going to be able to bring the carbon, or if you wanted to give a present to Hashem, or it's going to be one of the mayadim, right? In the different mayadim, we have different carbonas that are brought. Lasas reach nechayach Hashem, to make a reach nechayach, a pleasant and good smelling offering to Hashem, because with the carbon you bring incense, and there's bread, and there's all different things. Aymin Hatzanu, you could bring from the Shiva Higra. And now Hashem's talking about the different karbanas. Yeah. There's people. Yeah, so it would seem like that, but what's Hashem doing? Hashem was afraid that more people are going to be like these other Yidden that just ran up and wanted to conquer Israel, and they all got killed. So Hashem starts to talk about how it's going to be, the greatness that you're going to, the great things that are going to be when you get into Eretz Yisrael. He starts to talk about Eretz Yisrael a bit to calm people down. And he's telling them about the karbanos and how it's brought. And there's also, right, we have wine libations that are bring, and only on Sukkot do we bring a water libation. And it's going through all different karbanas. And after it talks about the karbanas, it says, "V'chi yoger itchem ger, ayasher b'seichem l'dareisim, v'asa isher nechach l'Hashem kasher tasu kain ya'aseh." So let's see, does Rashi say something on this? We don't have a Rashi on this. Okay. So if you have a stranger that's living with you, and they bring a carbon to Hashem, they have to do it in the same way that we discussed. Meaning, if a guy wants to bring a carbon, he has to do it in the same. He doesn't just do whatever he wants, however he wants to bring it. There's the same way I told you to bring it, the carbonas that he's allowed to bring, he has to do it in the same way. And there's a machlekes rishonim. There's a dispute amongst the rishonim exactly what is a guy allowed to bring. Some rishonim say a guy can only bring an ayla, a offering that completely gets burnt to Hashem. And the Gemara brings that an ayla, the skin is taken off, and that's given to the kaihanim. But everything else is burnt. And so that's the famous, this is what most people know, this sheet of the Rishonim. But there is another shita that a lot of people don't know about, and the different shita holds that if a guy understands the other types of karbanas, meaning a karban nedava, right? We're not talking about this the karbanas of Pesach or Sukkot or Shavuos, so that's only Klal Yisrael could bring as a Jew, right? But there are other types of nedavas that are in between, like just a carbon nedava, a Thanksgiving offering. If the guy understands what it means to bring it, then he could also bring it. And we continue. Hakol chuka achas lachem lagag chuka kachem gag. Torah achas mishpat achas yalachem lagar agar itchem. Right, if you have a few, right, there's a few things, right? See what it says over here. Kemoischem kein ger v'chein derech lashon Hashem keretz v'tzayim kein eretz v'tzayim kamoini k'meicha ka'ami ka'amcha. And so here actually, when we're saying that a ger, if someone's megayer, he becomes exactly like a yid, like anybody else. This, the Torah says it is saying, just like all the halachas that you have, he has. The way you have to bring karbanas, he has to bring the karbanas. And there's only one Torah, and he has the same. Just like you keep it, he has to keep it. A ger isn't that because he's a ger, he's a little less. He could keep a little less. He has to do the same as every other yid, and you have to treat him the same. So, and now we continue. Looks like we're coming near to the end of the parsha. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, again, here we have Hashem coming back and giving Moshe Rabbeinu another message to say to Klal Yisrael, Dabel b'nei Yisrael, go speak to Klal Yisrael and tell them that when they come into the land that I bring them, and when you start eating from the bounty of the land, you have to bring up a truma. What's the truma? What do you bring up to Hashem? The first of your crop. And how would they do it? If for each tree, the first fruit of the tree, right? There's a part of you have to bring. How would they do it? They would tie like a red string or a string around the fruit, and that's so they would know what was the first fruit of each tree, and they would bring that up to Eretz Yisrael. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting that in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, the Chachamim were guys that midrabanan also people in Chutz La'aretz. Really, this halacha only applies for people living in Eretz Yisrael, but the Chachamim were guys that people also in Chutz La'aretz outside of Eretz Yisrael also have to do bikurim. All these halachas, but today, since there's no Beis Hamikdash, it only applies to people in Eretz Yisrael. And some things are only midrabanan, and some things are daraisa. V'chi sishku v'lo yisasis kol ha-mitzvah se'ela shedibar Hashem al Moshe is kol ha-shetziv Hashem aleichem v'yad Moshe miyen hayom ha-shetziv Hashem aleichem v'hala l'dareisechem v'yim me'eni ha'eda nesa l'shgaga v'asu chol ha'eda par ben bakar. So you have to do everything that Hashem says. You have to make sure to do it. And if it was forgotten, meaning Bezdin, they forgot and they made a mistake then there is a special par ben bakar, a bull of the cattle, that echad la'ili, being one for an oila l'reich nechayich la'Hashem, and a mincha offering v'niskai kamishvat u'si'ir izim, and a male goat is brought for a chatas, and that's how they would atone if the Bezdin makes some mistakes in their hayra, in their judgment. If they permit something and it's forbidden, then this is what they would bring, these two karbanas. And the kain will come and atone for them, right? Because we know the kain is the one that is the one that brings the karbanos, and they would atone for the sin that the nation did. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu will forgive them when they bring this carbon. And now we're up to the last aliyah of the parsha. V'im nefesh achas techta v'shkaga v'hikriv v'kriva eiz bas shnasa lechatas. We have a person, one person. Now we're not talking about the Bezdin makes a mistake, but here we're talking about individual. They make a mistake. It wasn't purposely, and it wasn't something that was against their will. Someone forced them. We're talking about it was negligent. It came from negligence, the sin. Then they have to bring an eiz, a goat, in the first year, and the kohen brings it, and the person is forgiven for his sin. And right, there's and how does a person today? We don't have karbanos, so how does a person do this? So the Mefarshim tell us that's why when you daven, you have part in the beginning of the city you have the parsha of the karbanos, and by reading the karbanos, we say it's as if you brought it, and that's a way that a person could bring the carbon today. There's nothing, you could say, it's not a, all the way in the beginning of the siddur, right when you begin, after you say, the berachas, right there you're going to see karbanos. You're going to, yeah. So right there you could say you could also say it's brought in halacha. It's not a chiyuv to say. It's brought there. It's a very good thing to say. So, there's no, when we use the idea of a minhag that should tell us not to do something, that's only when it's something that there's no reason to do it, or there's a reason not to do it. But if it's something is brought in halacha that it's a good thing to do, and no one says that you shouldn't do it, there's no such thing that there will be a minhag that since you don't do it, now the minhag is that you shouldn't do it. That doesn't go under the category of a minhag that we say you keep to your minhagim. A minhag is when there's let's say a machlokes, and you're noig to do this way, then there's a reason not to go the other way, because if there's a machlokes if you should do it at all. You hear what I'm saying? But when there's no one says you shouldn't do it, you just happen not to do it, your family happens not to do it, then there's no din minhag there. So Kadosh Baruch Hu, please for. Let's see the Ezrach. Let's see what Rashi says about the Ezrach. We don't have a Rashi over here. So there is a person that's a sojourner. I believe here when we say Ezrach, it's referring to someone that's living in Eretz Yisrael but as a guy. But publicly he cannot do like do things that a regular Jew can't do. But privately he can. But a ger, someone who's megayer, right? He Torah achas yelachem leisa b'shkaga. So the same idea. So even a sojourner, right? Someone, he's not a Jew, but he's living there. Also, Ezrach bivnei. Here I think maybe it's talking. Unclear. Okay, so either way, the idea is this is the way when you do something by mistake, this is how you get rid of the chet. And a person that is he's gonna get up with a strong hand, either from an Ezrach, a sojourner, from a ger, someone that was megayer, and he's gonna be a megadef. He's gonna blaspheme against Hashem. He gets kares. his soul gets v'nichrasa hanefesh, his soul will get cut off from the rest of the nation. Ki dvar Hashem baza, because he profaned Hashem v'es mitzvaysav, and his commandments. Hefer, he nullified it. He cursed the curse nefesh avayna ba. His soul will be completely cut off. His sins upon him. V'yuvnei Yisrael b'midbar v'yinsu ish mekoshesh eitzim b'yom haShabbos. And behold, now we're coming up to a story, the famous story of Tzlavchad. And there was a man in the Klal Yisrael, and they found that he was mekoshesh eitzim. He was preparing wood for fire, cutting them down, and wanting to make a fire on Shabbos. And the people quickly grabbed him and brought them before Moshe and Aaron, because it was on Shabbos and you're not allowed to do it. Now let's see let's see if we have some Rashis over here. Tell us a little more what's going this. Lamed Beis. Imsu Bignoisan Shel Yisrael Dover. Shlei Shomer Ela Shabbos Rishona. So the people did not know what to do, and Moshe Rabbeinu did not either know what to do. He didn't go with his feel. I feel this should be. There's no feelings. Just look in the halacha and see what it says, right? A lot of people are running on emotions. I feel this is what we should do. I feel that's what we should do. Even when it comes to midas, characters, you can't just it's not a regular type of halacha, but it's something to do with a person's character trait, what should be done. Even that, there's halacha tells you that's also an halacha what should be done. A person shouldn't rely on his feelings, his emotions. It's to see what does Hashem say. Look in the Rambam, look in the Shulchan Aruch, ask a Rav. So Moshe Rabbeinu did not know what to do, so they locked them up. And Moshe Rabbeinu went to go ask Hashem. And Hashem, all of a sudden, Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, this person must die. He gets stoned to death. Meaning he gets the misa of skila, which is you throw him off like a 2-story building, and then you stone him till he dies, if he didn't die yet. The whole congregation took them out of the camp and stoned them to death. Stoned this person Tzlavcha to death. And he died like Hashem commanded them to do. Then Hashem came back to Moshe and said to them, speak to Kalai, tell them that they should make tzitzis al kanfe vigdeichem, when they have a 4-cornered beged, their clothing has 4 corners on it, they have to put on tzitzis. And on these tzitzis you put the tchelas, the blue, the special dye that comes from the chilazain. And behold, will beat for them for tzitzis. They're going to see the tzitzis. Uschartem is called mitzvah Hashem. They'll remember the mitzvah Hashem, and they won't be like now. They won't be like this Tzlavcha that if he had tzitzis, then he would see the tzitzis and remind him not to do the chet. They shouldn't go after their hearts and after their eyes, that a person is drawn after them. Right? A person, the desire comes when a person first sees. When he sees something now, he begins to desire it. Exactly. So that's what we're saying. You have to be careful. But it's interesting. The pasuk says, "Don't go after your heart. Don't go after your eyes." But l'chayra, right? It goes the opposite. First, the person sees, and then he desires. So the answer is sometimes the first seeing was out of your control. After you saw, now you desired. The question is, are you going to look a second time? That is in your control. The first time is not always in your control. You can't know what's going to happen in the future. Who's going to be walking there? What's going to happen? But the second look, that you could. But the second look comes from the desire of your heart. So that's what it's saying. In order that you should remember all my mitzvahs, and you should be holy to Hashem. Ani Hashem le'kich b'sheit seisi eschem in Mitzrayim. I'm the Hashem that took you out of the land of Mitzrayim. Lias lachem le'leikim, to be to you a merciful God. Ani Hashem of judgment, and Ani Hashem, I'm a merciful God. Eleikechem, and the God of judgment. And this is how we end this week's Parsha. Not that I know of. But there is something interesting here, that Tzlavchad, right? We have the famous story later on, the Benais Tzlavchad, the daughters of Tzlavchad, right? Exactly, right? That whole question. So what happened to their father? Because in the Midbar, people only died if they sinned. If you didn't sin, you didn't die. Because they were in the Anani Akavit. So it gave them special, they didn't really age so much, and the clothing didn't get old. And it was a whole difference, it was like living in Gan Eden. Very, it was not the same, but, similar to living in Gan Eden. And so their father was the Mekoshesh Eitzim, the one that went to go cut down the wood to make fire. And it's just amazing that you see that his daughters were. How could that be? If he was such a Rasha, how is his daughters so righteous? Right? His daughters also, they didn't get married until they were 40 years old, because they were they only wanted a man that was really, really righteous. And they were on the level that they could do something like that. I wouldn't advise anybody to do that, although it looks like all the girls are doing that today. Became the trend. I want this, and that's it. I don't care. They just go until they die, or until they can't have children anymore. It's not, right? The Gemara says that a special nace, that they were able to have a child. It wasn't something simple, but they were on the level, and they were, but. The Gemara does say that they were for them it was right, but people shouldn't get the wrong idea, But we also see. So the question stands: how are they such righteous that if anybody else would be like the Bnei Tzlavchad and would say, we're not going to get married until we find X and X, very, very holy man that's going to marry us. For anybody else, it would be considered a sin, and the Gemara is made the Gemara that they were l'shem shemayim. They were 100% l'shem shemayim, and they were on the level to act at that high level of l'shem shemayim. And yet we see that their father was the Mekoshesh Eitzim. How could that be? You hear the question? Huge question. The answer is, the Gemara also tells us that Tzlavchad was mechaven l'shem shemayim. Tzlavchad's intention was for heaven, for Hashem. And how could that be? How could his intentions be for Hashem if he's going against what Hashem said? Says the Gemara that he said, I want to show people how important Shabbos is. And therefore, I'm going to be Mechal Shabbos, and I'm going to get punished. And from the gruesome punishment, people are going to realize, don't be Mechal Shabbos. That was his plan. And that's what it means that he was Mechaven L'Shem Shemayim. But he was still wrong. Why was he wrong? Because Hashem said not to do it. Even though you have a good cheshbon, but once it becomes a commandment, then you can't do it. And that's where he went wrong. But he really was a very righteous person, and his intentions was for good, and that's how he had such righteous daughters. So this is, it's absolutely amazing. And what was even, and And what came out of this is that the Gemara says that if Klal Yisrael would keep two Shabboses, one after the other, or if all of Klal Yisrael keeps it, and is not Machal Shabbos, then Mashiach comes immediately. And Klal Yisrael already kept one Shabbos, the previous Shabbos, and now it was coming the time of the second Shabbos. And now the Tzlavcha get this idea of how to bring out the importance of Shabbos, and he's willing to get killed for it. But what he actually did is he prevented the Geula Shalema from happening. So it's like a huge lesson. Sometimes we think that we have a good cheshbon, but if Hashem says not to do it, we have to trust that Hashem knows better. He sees the bigger picture. So absolutely amazing. This everything that's transpiring over here.